Welcome to the finale of our 3-part series, Overdose Awareness. Make sure to watch parts 1 and 2 before watching this episode.
Necessarily right away.
It's a very old school mindset of one way works for everyone, you know, and that's just not how it works. It's not how it works for teaching people how to learn things. It's not how it works for a lot of things in life. So it shouldn't work with recovery either, you know, so.
Yeah. And, that was tough. Like, what do you, that's a tough puzzle to solve.
Let me ask you though, like, with Isaac's passing, how did that impact your own recovery journey, and how has that changed you?
Has it motivated you more? Has it?
I don't think that it necessarily motivated me anymore. I think that I just, for one thing, it did happen. So Isaac passed in October of 2021. So I was about 5.5 years into my recovery journey, right? So if you go back to his first overdose, if that would have been it, right, without Narcan, I'd have been about at 8 months, right? So if we're just talking about me, like, I don't know how that would have impacted me at 8 months, right? Because I am one of those people that humbly will say that I put a lot of work into my recovery. You know, I've done a lot of work, and I've done a lot of work on just liking myself. So for me, it's not about giving stuff away. It's not about losing a car or losing even my house, my apartment, all my sneakers, or whatever. It's now I like myself.
Yeah.
Like, and I never could say that in my life till probably about 3 or 4 years into my recovery, that I actually like myself, without just saying it, but actually I look at myself in the mirror and I'm good with that guy, and that's who I don't want to give away anymore. Like, I don't want to give away a piece of that away. So like for me today, my self-esteem, the way I feel about myself is non-negotiable. Like, I try to do things to build that and to nurture that.
I love that. That's an awesome thing to say that you say.
Yeah, and I try to discard things that are going to harm that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I respect a lot about you, Tobin, is that you, not only for yourself, but you spread that in the office too. Like, I'll never forget the first day I got here. I was at North, our Fort Lauderdale office, and I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a very interesting new journey.
And then you met Tobin, and he messed with the newbies because he does hate them.
Tobin saw me, and he's like, hey, what's up, dude? Welcome to the office. What's your name? And I'm like, oh, Christian. Like, oh, great, man. Hope you get to do stuff. Move forward to like 2, 3, maybe even 5 months. And Tobin is like, hey, I heard you're doing the podcast. Hey, you're moving up. You're going to become my boss. And I'm like, no, what do you...
You would say something like that.
And like Tobin is like constantly like elevating us. Even in our staff meetings, he's always like putting us in a good mood. So it's like, I just wanted to say, and this whole episode, I've been really quiet because I've been trying to really absorb your story, because I see, although I do not have a similar story to yours, the self-esteem specific part, it's something that I've struggled for a very long time, and my part of my recovery was learning how to love myself, and I'm still in that journey. I still have days, where I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I don't like that person. But the words that you keep saying, like constantly surrounding yourself with people and finding your own way to love yourself, I think is such an important thing to take away, and hearing about your son and everything. It's just I just want to let you know. Thank you for sharing your story.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I want to say something too. Like, one thing I've noticed about people that are extremely self-critical about themselves, and like I've learned that from myself and my own journey, my critical analysis on my own self, is that those people typically are they're beacons for a lot of people, and they don't realize it. They're beacons of light, they're beacons of joy, they're beacons of conversation, and they bring a lot of value that they don't necessarily see a lot of the times. And I see that a lot with you, hearing that the way you feel about yourself, and especially like growing up and stuff, I can tell it was hard for you to understand your value and what you bring to people. But like, I can tell you like firsthand, like me, my mom. Like, my mom's really not a person that talks about anybody at work, ever. About work, outside of work. You are the number one person by far she's ever mentioned, like Kayla too. But like your life, your family, your story, how it's impacted her life, and how she takes that outside of work, and she's like, I need to make sure I check in with you are like someone that is very, very important to a lot of people. And I think I want to make that known and tell you that, so you like can keep on your journey, keep on your stuff, keep motivating people to be great and keep being great yourself, because a lot of times people need to hear that, you know. People, again, it goes back to what I was saying, like the self-critical people are usually the people that are beating themselves up. Like, I think 100%. Like people like Robin Williams, like he's such a really good person, philanthropist, gave back money, was always great on sets, all these great
Super
things you hear
kind.
about him, and he left the world prematurely because of things that he couldn't tell people. And
funny enough, I mean, not funny enough, excuse me, but interestingly enough, now that you mentioned that, he passed away exactly 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
This
Today?
year. Not, I don't know if today, but this year.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when, you know, it's interesting that we're talking about overdose awareness and about suicidal ideation, because, you know, we've lost so many people along the way, you know. Like, I think back in these past 10 years, like all the people that we've lost because of suicide or because of overdose, and it's like it's such a tragic number, you know. Even the whole situation now with Matthew Perry, and like the whole news that's coming out with that whole stuff.
I remember I'm hearing, what was her name? Lauren's story.
Who?
We had the adoption story.
Oh, you're talking about Emily.
Emily, sorry. I remember, you know, hearing her story and hearing her talk about her trying to go through with things, and how like
the mentality behind it. Yeah,
and even like still how like she doesn't feel that way anymore, but at the same time she still struggles, you know. And she's, instead of like thinking like that, she's just more intentional about her feelings and understanding that struggle is normal, you know. So like I remember hearing, and that's one of our, we've said it, like that's one of our best episodes, and I think it's exactly that, because she was so truthful about her experience and like what she's going through, and I think a lot of people just don't hear that, you know.
Emily has a really amazing story, and she's got an amazing resilience, and I have a lot of respect for
and
her.
that's what it is, exactly, that's the perfect word, it's resilience, you know. And I could feel that off of her. I could feel like her desire to want to end things and not want to be here, but her resilience and her strength to fight those feelings, because she understands that's not the solution. Like you were saying before, it's not a solution, it's an end to a means. There's nothing after that. There's no solution to it, you know. So
how have you found, you know, your way forward, like with something so profound? So, like I'm a mom, so like I just think about, you know, that process, and it's just like, I know that that's probably the hardest, most difficult thing that anyone could ever experience or go through. As I think about like what would be for me like the most difficult thing, and it's always going to come back to something such as that. So
I think one of the hardest parts is just the day to day, just that Isaac's not around anymore. You know, like he was one of those people. He was my person. Like, I contacted Isaac probably daily. I'm not saying that he always responded to my text or whatever. You know, he's a 24-year-old kid.
I feel like you guys were two peas in a pod, though, for sure.
But one of the things, like, there's a few things that happened that were really important. So when I was in treatment and he was in that halfway house, you know, he came down to visit me in treatment and things like that. And I was telling him that I really wanted us to work on our relationship, that I wanted to like kind of fix that year that we had of all that dysfunction. And I wanted to, you know, kind of find our way, especially communication, you know, because we kept each other on those eggshells, and I didn't want that anymore. I wanted us to be able to talk about what we needed to talk about. I told him, like, we don't have to agree on everything, but a discussion, we both deserve that. You know, our relationship deserves that. And Isaac's a kid at this time. Like, he's not 24 then. I think he was maybe 20 then, if maybe 19. He could have easily have said no. Like, I'm not interested in that. I just want to be, we're just good or whatever. you know, but he said yes, you know, and we were very intentional about like working on that stuff. And so our relationship grew when he was down here, even through his struggles, you know, and I was able to talk to him about that thing that was to me almost untalkable. You know, like I didn't say that much about me choosing drugs over him, that story that I told you guys, but I was very aware of it. And I knew that I needed to have an upfront conversation with him about it, you know, and we were able to do that, you know. And he even said at the time, he's like, I was baffled. Like, why are you doing this? You know, but we were able to, you know, he was obviously able to forgive me. Maybe I shouldn't say obviously, but he was able to forgive me, and we were able to have a relationship that I call like we were in the present. Like we weren't grabbing stuff from our past, throwing it at each other. We were very much had a relationship that was in the present. And I think that has really helped me because I don't have a lot of regrets that I can't handle. I think as parents, if something bad happens to our kids, we always think we could have done better in some sort of way.
That's my mom's had the biggest struggle with that.
Right. And as a dad, like my instinct is like we have that protective instinct. And like he lost his life. Like so even though it's illogical, there's times where I feel like you kind of like you didn't live up to that. You know, so I do have those moments, but like for the most part, I'm very good with our relationship. I just really wanted it to continue, you know? So I'm mostly full of sadness. I have a lot of sadness. I have trouble thinking about him without being sad.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't have a lot of like regret. I'm really happy about that. I'm like, I don't have this, like, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. Because even the things that where I fell short, we were able to talk about, you know, both of us.
Yeah, and you were intentional about heading in that direction.
Yeah, and like one of the things that I really was intentional about from treatment on was that I was gonna be present and available for Simon. Just doesn't need me as much, but for Simon, but definitely for Isaac too. So like, you know, instead of dipping and dodging him and keeping him on eggshells or pretending I didn't see that he called, you know, that I was very present for him. You know, I was very much available, you know. So we were really, we were in a good place, you know, relationship wise. But like, it's just like, for me, most of this has been just like, it's just been sadness. It's just a lot of sadness. You know, and it's just like, I almost call it like chronic sadness.
Yeah.
That I had for like 2 years. I would say around the 2-year mark, for whatever reason, my day-to-day started to get better. Started to get a little bit easier. And then sometimes I would feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's such a, that is a weird one.
Yeah,
right.
And it's just
That's
kind
the
of like,
one.
it's like there's so many levels to this, but like, excuse my language, but like a lot of it is like sort of a mind.
No, 100%.
You know, here's this, you know, this person that all of a sudden they're gone. Like I went to bed on a Sunday, you know, and I woke up early Monday morning and he's gone. You know, and so, you know, just the finality of it, you know, like forever is a freaking long time.
Yeah.
You know?
Damn, it is.
But like I've gone through different feelings, you know, like for a long time I just felt like I almost felt like when I was asleep that Sunday night, like they removed something that is very vital to me being able to live.
Yeah.
Like have the life that I want to have, and they took it. You know, and I almost felt like yo, like I need that back. You know, like I walked around like feeling very wounded and feeling like this big thing is missing. You know, physically and like mentally. A lot of times, like I've talked to Kayla about it. Like I'd feel like I'm on autopilot. Like during the day, I wouldn't remember my day. I'd get home, I wouldn't remember like conversations I had and try to write notes about participants, and I'd be like, I don't even remember what we talked about.
Yeah.
You know, like I was just on autopilot, you know. It's just a lot of, for me, it was just a lot of sadness.
What has helped you
know.
most through this process?
I think as much as my mind would tell me that I just want to like stay home and watch TV all day, like why do I have to go to work, you know? But work was actually like, because our work, at least to me, like I'm not going to sit here and say like it's not a job or it's not work, but like it's not what I'm used to as work or a job, you know? And I get so much out of the one-on-one work with the people that are on my caseload, that, you know, even when I'm kind of dreading doing it, in those moments of really being sad and just not having the energy, is like it was very uplifting, you know? Because that's one of the big things too that I felt like it was just a real big drag on my energy. I just didn't feel like I had the energy, the vitality to like do this. It took a lot out of me. It's like I couldn't believe like how much I thought of this kid. Like, and he has no new information. There's no new information. It's not like I'm getting phone calls from him like, hey, I got a new job, or, you know, da-da-da-da-da. You know, I met this new girl, da-da-da. So, like, no new information, and I'm, like, thinking about him, like, just all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I love about you, Tobin, and what I've seen since is you use pictures of Isaac, and for me, it's been a joy to get like, it's not my daily posting, but it's your daily posting, but I get to experience those daily posting, and it almost brings me just joy seeing that, because I feel like that, whether you know it or not, has been a tool for you as well.
Yeah. It has been, and I do struggle to say like what has really made a difference, but a lot of times it's just
time.
Yeah.
Sort of time, but it's just like putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And like, even like, you know, at the beginning of my recovery journey, like I had no idea. It seemed so hard and overwhelming to me, you know, but like as much as it's a cliche, and I love to make fun of cliches and old time sayings like that, one day at a time, like sometimes it was just like, let's get through this day, you know, like let's just see this person in jail, like let's get to the next person, you know, let's try to be present in front of them, because like, you know, part of that is like, it's not like I was doing something that doesn't matter, you know. So like having another person in front of me that needs help, that needs guidance, that needs like peer support was important, I think, for me to keep doing that, as much as sometimes I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Another big thing for me was the gym, you know, and I wasn't sleeping well, a 24-hour gym that I could go to, and believe it or not, like, you know, listening to music, and I have a certain band that I always post about, but one of the things they do is they play these really long songs. They'll take a song and play it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And so you have like the lyrics part, but then you just go into these extended jams. And for me, what they did was I could just stop being sad. And that was enough. Like I just got a break from being sad, and I could get lost in this music.
Yeah.
You know, and not think, not be sad.
Just do,
And that to me was just like, I could sometimes like, I didn't want to leave the gym.
Yeah, I
could
could attest to that. Like working out, there's like, you don't think of anything else.
Yeah.
And the part of then moving my body, you know, and it just, the whole thing.
Moving
just,
that through you. They say, you know, the energy is in you, right? Like with emotions and stuff. And so the movement actually allows and helps the process of moving those emotions or feelings out of you too. So that's
for
really
sure.
good.
Between your trauma, your chakras and your traumas and things that you store within your hips and things like that, so many things that can happen.
and moving and just being, just moving on with recovery. Isaac was my biggest cheerleader. Isaac was so
but
proud of
you
me.
were his too.
Yeah,
and so
for sure.
I would talk to you, behind the cubicles every day at work, and it was always about Isaac. So it's like, I knew Tobin, being a dad was really truly, Tobin, your like ideal of life, because it spoke in just everything, conversations, like all the stuff you just know about people, what they value as you get to know them, and so I think that
and running groups, I think, has really helped. It's a place that I was very cognizant of not using it as my therapy session,
right?
To have a purpose behind it, but like talking about that in group, because like I've had people that have seen my groups at IRT or in the jail like years ago, and I haven't seen them for a couple years, and one of the first things they asked me is, how is Isaac? Because he was what was kind of going on then too, like, because he was struggling. There was times when I would walk into those groups where I didn't know where Isaac was. He would have been kicked out of a recovery residence and on the street, and I didn't really know where he was. I used to send him Snapchats, because Snapchat, you can see when someone looks at it. So I would send him Snapchats, and he would get so annoyed by them, because sometimes I'd be like, I love you, or da-da-da. And I would just do it so that he would
open it, and you could see him.
Open it. He'd be like, would you stop sending me these things? And I would just be like, okay. And I would just send him, because like, I didn't know if he was alive. Because I have this kid who's on the other end, and I'm trying to like pass on this new harm reduction stuff that I'm learning at South Florida Wellness Network to him, and he's telling me he knows what's in those bags. He's like, I remember one of the scariest texts I got from him was like, chill out. Like, I don't want to die. Like, I know what's in here. And I'm like, this kid's delusional. Like, no, you don't. Like, and plus, like, son, like, you barely graduated high school, and I don't think it included a chemistry class. And, like, the dude putting those bags together, I'm not sure he did so well in that either. You know? Like, but that's the way we get, and especially at that age, you get that invincibility and like, oh, it's not going to happen to me.
No, for sure. And I think there's a lot of
this fentanyl is just, it's just a landscape that we're in, and it's really, really, really dangerous.
It is.
One of my favorite musicians died the month before that. Mac Miller died 2021 September to a fentanyl overdose when he was trying to do cocaine, I think, or something.
Maybe.
But it was laced with fentanyl.
It's so hard, and you got to continue to bring the education and the information. But at the end of the day, when you have young people that are still in that phase of like trying to figure it out, invincibility and things like that, we always think like, oh, but not me, and so it's like that struggle. But bringing education piece to it and continuing to make awareness, making sure people have naloxone, that they have Narcan. I mean, my son is 13 years old, and he can train Narcan, because I make sure that he knows about it. And in his middle school, there was a fentanyl overdose with a 7th grader last year. I mean, these stories are real, and I think that's what's important too, is to say, like, because sometimes it sounds so far-fetched because people feel like, oh no, that's not going to happen, but I really believe that every person on earth should carry Narcan, because you just never know.
It's one of those things where it's like you stay ready so you don't have to get ready kind of thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you earlier, as far as like myself, like, if I would have picked up over this and tried to get through it with a chemical solution, like, all these bad things would have happened to me. To the point that homelessness is possible, but I still would have missed my son. So it wouldn't have fixed anything. And I would say, like, that's probably the biggest thing in my life as far as substances go today, and is that I just know that, like, it's just not going to help a situation. It's only going to make things worse, and that's not true in everybody's life, but that's true in my life. With substances, I'm either all in or all out. And I'm still going to be sad about my son. It might numb it for a little bit, but I'm going to be still be sad about my son and then feel worse about myself.
Yeah.
Because that's where that stuff takes me, you know.
Right.
So like one of the things it really did was bring me back to the fundamentals of my own recovery. So I think sometimes when we get a few years, you know, is that like, at least for me, I kind of get away from like, oh, at least if you didn't pick up today, it's a successful day. Like I kind of make fun of that a little bit. Like, is that really where we have the bar? But like, that's the foundation of my recovery. Like it has to start there for me.
Day by day.
Yeah.
You know, so like it did bring me back to being very grateful and to realize that like, you know, this thing is something that could have taken a lot of people back out.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, God has my back that it didn't take me out. You know, and not only a higher power that I like to call God, so that we all know what we're talking about, but like also, you know, the work that we do in recovery, you know, can pay off.
Yeah.
Like, and recovery can get you through some of the hardest times. You know, so like I like the people to hear that part of my story, because like I could easily have picked up, and I don't think very many people would have blamed me.
Right.
Yeah.
Been like, he just lost.
But
his
what good
kid.
does that do for your life?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. You know, it wouldn't have been any kind of solution.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, at the very end of it, I still would be sad about Isaac. Like that's gonna be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way that is.
Yeah.
You know, but I think one of the things that happens with grief like this is, like I said, it's almost like chronic pain. It becomes like chronic sadness. And I think it can wear you down.
Yeah.
I know it has worn me down. You know, there's just this tired of like, God, I just don't want to feel like this anymore. You know, as much as I love my kid, like, can I just not think about it today?
Yeah, and then having to
You
carry
know,
on with your
Yeah.
day-to-day life
Yeah,
of work
it's
and
just-
having to maintain like
That sadness.
happiness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sadness is just it starts to become debilitating.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and it definitely has. I noticed that it definitely has changed me.
Yeah.
You know, in certain ways, I'm a lot like I was talking to Kayla earlier. You know, like everything that happens to me, like kind of like good or bad, it like feelings of being really happy or even sad, like they all run through sadness. Like if I get really happy about something, I will then get sad because like Isaac's not around. I shared everything with him. And it's just like a new thing. And then sometimes like I'll get sad and it should be maybe a little bit of sadness. And it's like this big amount of sadness. So like I'm back to like trouble before recovery where I couldn't like regulate my emotions.
Yeah.
And like I was telling her, like I saw recovery as like a new opportunity, like a rebirth. Like when I was in that treatment center, if the guy would have said, hey, we're going to get you stabilized and right back into your old life, in like 3 weeks, I'd have been like, I'm in the wrong place. Like, I don't want that old life at all.
Yeah.
Like, I probably would have left there and it was January in Philadelphia, you know? But I saw it as this new opportunity. And so like, I rebuilt myself with the values that I always wanted to put in me, the best that I can. And here this thing comes along and it's changing me, but like without my consent.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, you know, there's so many levels to this. There's always that sadness of losing my son. That's front and center. But then there's all these other things, like he's gone and all these things then that I have to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, and some of that is just that things change within me, and I didn't really want that to happen. You know.
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So
question.
it was kind of just like on that messing with your mind kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm very curious then, as we kind of start wrapping up. How long has it been now?
It'll be 3 years in October.
3 years in October.
Yes.
So obviously that's, I wish some people might say, oh, that's a long time, but that's nothing. 3 years can seem. But I'm very curious what you would respond when I ask you, what kind of advice would you give to parents out there in the recovery community, or parents who have somebody in their life involved in recovery who lost their son to an overdose? What kind of advice would you give to them who are just in that boat where they're like, I don't know what to do now?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I often don't feel like I'm I'm an expert on myself, but I'm not sure what is always best. But I personally have kind of followed my heart.
Yeah.
Good or bad. You know, but I would definitely say to at least find an outlet that you can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I think in any of this stuff, in a lot of the things that we even talked about earlier, is like silence is not the answer.
It's not.
You know, as much as my brain was telling me to kind of isolate, like, and as much as sometimes, like, I say that I don't want to be around anybody or whatever, but like that has really helped me. Like I said, like, even just keep working, you know. I'm not around the office a lot, but even those times in the office, and I got a lot out of those groups, but to do something, whether that's join a grief group, whether that's, you know, something if they're religious, you know, I know that they have a lot of stuff for that now. But I would definitely say don't just pack it in and just sit with it.
Find a support system, a community, people.
Yeah, I think that really helps, and to be able to talk about them, like Isaac's like my favorite subject, and now it's like I hardly get to talk about him.
And that's a great point that you make, because I feel like if I was to go through a similar thing, yes, it would be insanely hard for me to talk about. But at the same time, bottling that up and always thinking about it would make me feel more crazy about it.
Yeah, and then
you know?
it's like and grief is weird. Like
super weird.
People react to it so differently.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I'll be talking to people, and it's like even an appropriate time for like a funny Isaac story, but if they know he passed away, they just get silent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
I know
like
exactly what you mean.
And so like I don't always want to bring that into a conversation. So like I stop myself, and then some people want to ask me about them, and they stop themselves. You know what I mean? So it's like this.
Yeah.
Then it becomes this thing that I don't talk about anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I still struggle with, you know, remembering Isaac without being sad, but when I talk to him about people, especially people that used to know him, but it doesn't have to be, but like I do feel better.
Yeah.
You know, he's a big part of my life, and I don't want him to be this like taboo subject.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Well, I
know?
want to
But I
thank you,
also
yeah.
sometimes do that to myself. Like there's some self-stigma, because I'm like, I'm just going to bring the conversation down.
That's
know?
right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that you are so willing to talk about Isaac, because I think that his story, and I feel like even today, is like we had you, but we also had Isaac here.
Yes,
you know?
great
and
point. You know, yeah.
when you carry that, something profound happens, because it always does for me, because I always talk to you about Isaac when we see each other, you know. And I feel like, you know, like I got to meet Isaac, which is amazing, got to paint his face and everything. But I feel like I really know Isaac because I know you, and because you talk about Isaac, which is something really cool, you know, and I feel connected to that. And I think that you have a lot of resilience in you, and so does Isaac, you know. And so thank you so much for your transparency and your vulnerability, being able to talk about, you know, this situation and a lot of bigger situations within it too, that to bring awareness, to kind of really stomp out the stigma, to really talk about even how like mental health and substance use kind of, you know, coincide, and people separate these things so much. But I really appreciate it. And, you know, Overdose Awareness and Recovery Month are all kind of coming through the same August 31st, Overdose Awareness, and then Recovery Month. But these conversations should continue on a daily basis, because they bring not just only insight, but they bring hope. and just a connectedness that I feel really blessed. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to say, like, Isaac had 2 years of recovery before he passed away. 2 years in probably like a month or two. So like he did at least experience, some freedom and some good times, and he believed in recovery. So like, his message is, that he was a big cheerleader of people too. He liked to see them do well and stuff like that. So like he's definitely rooting for people in recovery.
I wonder where he got that from.
Yeah, right. So like, it was really important. It's important for me to, to kind of keep at it and stuff like that. And I just try to, because I say it to people all the time, because I know so many people that have lost people.
Yeah.
And I just think one of our best ways to honor them is just by living a good life.
Yeah.
And, and
that's the only way you could. That's the only way you can honor them.
Yeah.
And helping other people live a good life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I really do appreciate our relationship, and I appreciate how much you and I like dig on the parenting thing. And stuff like that. It's been wild. I still remember like your first day was like a rap 2 training.
I know.
Like not rap 1, it
Rap
was like
two,
rap 2.
like presenting.
We had to
and doing
present
all
to like
this
Bobby and
stuff.
Susan.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And just watching you, because Kayla used to come out to IRT. We used to do it together,
We
and
did.
just the anxiety. Like we kind of trauma bonded.
We did. Oh my gosh, so
like
much.
just over our
like
anxiety.
having to speak in front
Yeah.
of people and like sweating our
All
armpits
those
and like
things we had to do
stumbling
at the
over
beginning.
our words.
Yeah. And now you're both
Yeah.
naturals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you guys were here. I really appreciate it. I feel like I know you
And
guys
I
better.
am too, man. It's
And we
super
had-
cool to see your guys' evolution.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's because
Kinda
especially you guys, like Chris has been here. He's a newbie, and me and Chris
Yeah.
have evolved a ton in our show and our relationship together, and just letting each other and hearing our perspectives.
Absolutely.
But seeing you guys for years upon years, seeing your families grow, seeing like
Yeah.
how you change and how you've evolved as people and humans. Especially, Kayla's almost always been the same, but like from what I've met, she's almost always been that same kind of bubbly girl, But you truly have grown a lot, Tobin.
Yeah.
Like
Appreciate that.
you've always been a very, what's the word? Like back to what I was saying before, like your personality has always been like you gravitate to it. You have that personality, but
Yeah.
over the years you can tell you've just done so much work within yourself
Yeah.
that and it shows that you care about other people through that work. I when I'm around you and when I go to like the staff, because I usually only see you at staff meetings now, and I can just feel your presence versus other people, that you enjoy being there for the sake that you could see other people and say hi, and that there's the company's growing, and that like I can see your enjoyment in it, and it makes me feel more enjoyed,
I
And,
Absolutely.
and there's not many people that can do that,
Absolutely.
and that's like, you're a great person. You inspire a lot of people, and you should, keep being yourself for sure.
Thank you.
Tobin is a mascot without the suit.
Yeah.
He really
for
is,
sure.
and that's a great point.
Backflips
How
and
many people
everything.
are mascots when you go to a college? There's one. There's not many people like you.
Well, one of the things I found out through this job is like I like cheering people on.
Yeah.
Like, I like rooting for other people.
Yeah.
It's fun. I just love to see. And there's something about recovery that is just so much. It's such a good feeling to see somebody else get it.
Yeah.
I think
the
it's
best.
like
Didn't get it.
I
Like,
think it's you get to
just-
see someone go from like the rock bottom and really have that epiphany. Like that's why I always love to hear that epiphany part in these stories, is because you see how someone's came from rock bottom and then they're like, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done with this, and then they're done.
Well,
it shows the power of a human brain.
And one of the things, like this time around for recovery, like I actually got to know people where last time I would just see them and they would have years, but I was like being anonymous in
Unintentional.
yeah, like I was just wanted to fly under the radar. And this time, like one moment that I had was your mom invited me to this to volunteer to this award ceremony that she had to MC. And so I was in the backstage, and I didn't even know your mom that well yet. We knew each other, you know, and she was so nervous. And I'm like, oh.
My mom is the most nervous person in the world when she does things. It's hilarious.
And me and her were talking, and I was kind of like helping her out in that moment. And like, she had to buy me clothes to be there. So that's how early in my recovery
I remember this story. You said it at a staff meeting once.
And like, but I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
like we're all just human beings.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like
We're
we're
beautiful
not
people.
like
Yeah.
we're not like these mythical characters or whatever, but
Yeah.
like, and we're doing like human being things because like the thing about recovery that, and I, you know, without trying to use the word like sobriety or clean, but to do it without drugs, like my biggest question was like the practical way to do this through like everyday life.
Yeah.
And so then like
We realized
I could
it's
start
not drugs, it's courage, right?
Yeah.
and I could start seeing that like
Just being
we're-
yourself.
like,
Yeah.
like and how like not alone we are,
And how not
like,
alone.
we're all
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
similar,
So which is pretty cool.
whether we
to-
have a title or not.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to segue this, because we are going to wrap it up, but I would be remiss not to say like the impact that South Florida Wellness Network makes in the community is profound, but the impact the South Florida Wellness Network makes on those that work for South Florida Wellness Network is also extremely profound. And I think that I know I have grown so much doing the work, but also being a part of a space and place and like under leadership like your mom, and a community where we've all been like, you know what, we want to grow together. We're flawed. We're going to step out and have to take courage and do new things on a daily basis because we're all on the same page with the same mission of wanting to help that next person, right? So somebody stuck their hand out for me, and when I got up, the next
It's a
thing
pay
I
it
did
forward
was
mentality.
stand my hand out for somebody else. Yeah.
And real quick, like when you were actually, you know, saying such nice things about me, like what I was thinking was like, for those employees that are going to listen to this, like if you're really doing this job in a way that I think like that maybe I don't want to say that you should be, but like growth is just part of it.
It's part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you're really into this job and really helping the community, like our growth has to happen as well.
Yeah.
Like I can't just be having someone in front of me and want them to grow and I'm stagnant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like it really is kind of like doing this together.
It's a team effort.
It's a together.
Like
my
this is the biggest team
participants,
effort
all
ever.
those people that have been on my caseload through these last 7 years are like a part of who I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's-
you know, as much as people tell me that, oh my gosh, you've helped so many people and da da da, and I appreciate it, you know, but like those people have helped me
Yeah,
so much
100%.
too.
Yeah.
And like finally taking a job seriously, where like I'm doing stuff and listening to stuff and gathering information, not just for me, but like thinking that I can pass it on.
Yeah, that you can
For
make
sure.
a difference, and you
And
can,
like,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And realizing like my growth is part of my job responsibility.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
I have absolutely. You
know.
can't impart what you don't possess. The minute I
Yeah.
stop growing, the minute I have nothing
Absolutely.
to give.
Yeah.
So that being said, we're really excited because we are celebrating 10 years, which is so incredible. We actually celebrate 10 years in August, but we're doing a gala during Recovery Month in order to really celebrate that. It's also a fundraiser because we like to gather money so we could put it back into the community, back into impacting lives. So check out the link below, and if you guys want to attend the gala, it's going to be a really special evening. We have performers, an incredible keynote speaker, but you'll actually get an opportunity to spend some time with this incredible organization and the team that so diligently works out in the community to support individuals in their process of wellness and recovery. So we hope to see you there. If you want to sponsor or auction items, there's also options for that. But most importantly, just know that we love you guys. We appreciate every time that you step into Talkin' Wellness with us and just join us on. And we see you and we hear you, and we hope that you got just as much out of Tobin's story that we have. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you guys.
Bye.